One of the most dangerous ideas you can believe is that working harder automatically means you will become more successful. Society often teaches you that if you wake up earlier, stay later, sacrifice more, and exhaust yourself, eventually the rewards will come. But there is a problem with that formula. Hard work is only valuable when it is connected to valuable work. You can spend 12 hours a day moving in circles and still remain in the same financial position. You can answer hundreds of messages, attend endless meetings, complete repetitive tasks, and constantly feel busy while creating very little that increases your long-term value. Being busy is not the same as building wealth. Activity is not the same as progress. And exhaustion is not proof that you're moving forward. Look at two people working equally hard. The first person spends their entire day performing tasks that almost anyone could learn to do. They are dependable, hardworking, and exhausted at the end of every week. But because their work is easily replaceable, their income remains limited. The second person works hard as well, but they focus on solving difficult problems. They develop specialized knowledge. They learn how to communicate, negotiate, sell, build, manage, create, or operate systems. Their effort produces outcomes that are more difficult to replace. Both people work hard, but the market does not value their effort equally. This is the lesson most people learn too late. The world does not reward suffering simply because you suffered. It rewards value. If you want to change your financial life, stop asking only, how much harder can I work? What kind of work am I doing, and why is it valuable? That question can completely change your direction. Imagine spending another 5 years becoming slightly faster at a task that thousands of people can already perform. Now imagine spending those same 5 years developing a skill that allows you to solve a major problem for businesses, customers, or communities. The second path may require more courage because learning creates temporary discomfort. You have to become a beginner again. You have to make mistakes. You have to risk looking inexperienced. You have to think differently. But that discomfort can be an investment in your future. Hard work becomes powerful when it increases your capability. The goal is not simply to become someone who can work for 10 hours. The goal is to become someone who can create in 1 hour what others struggle to create in 10. That difference changes everything. You begin looking at your time differently. Every hour becomes an opportunity to build something, to learn something, to improve something, to create an asset, to develop an ability, to solve a more expensive problem, to increase your influence. This is where strategy enters. Because if you spend your entire life selling your time, there will always be a limit to how much you can earn. There are only so many hours in a day, and there are only so many days in a lifetime. You cannot create unlimited income by multiplying a limited resource forever. But don't misunderstand the lesson. This isn't an argument against hard work. Hard work is still essential. You need discipline. You need persistence. You need patience. You need the ability to keep going when results are slow. But hard work should be the engine, not the destination. Work hard on becoming more valuable. Work hard on developing skills. Work hard on understanding markets, people, communication, technology, systems, and opportunities. Work hard on becoming difficult to replace. That is a completely different mindset from simply working until you're exhausted. The question is no longer, how tired am I? It becomes, what did my effort create? Did you create knowledge? Did you create a skill? Did you create a relationship? Did you create a system? Did you create an asset? Did you create a result that can lead to something bigger tomorrow? Those are better questions, because when your effort only pays for today, you remain trapped in today. When your effort builds something that improves tomorrow, you begin creating leverage. And once you understand the difference between hard work and valuable work, you are ready for the next level. Learning how powerful people multiply effort through leverage instead of simply adding more hours. There is a limit to how much you can earn when every result depends directly on your personal time. You can become more efficient, you can work longer, and you can improve your productivity, but eventually you reach the same wall. There are only so many hours in a day. This is where leverage changes the game. Most people are taught to think in terms of effort. If you want more money, work more hours. If you want bigger results, put in more energy. If you want to get ahead, sacrifice more than everyone else. But powerful people learn to ask a different question. How can one unit of effort produce a much larger result? That is leverage. Leverage means using something beyond your immediate labor to multiply what your effort can accomplish. It can come from technology, systems, capital, specialized knowledge, distribution, or other people. Think about the difference between writing one email and creating a system that automatically sends thousands of useful emails. The effort required to build the system may be significant, but once it exists, the same underlying work can produce results far beyond the original hours spent. That is the power of leverage. You stop thinking like a worker who must constantly push harder, and you begin thinking like a builder who creates structures that continue producing value. Technology is one form of leverage. A piece of software can perform a task thousands of times without becoming tired. A digital product can be created once and delivered repeatedly. A strong piece of content can reach people long after you finish creating it. A well-designed process can save hours every week. The person who understands this doesn't necessarily work less. They work differently. They spend effort creating something that reduces the amount of effort required later. That is a major shift in thinking. Another form of leverage is knowledge. Not all knowledge has equal economic value. Knowing something that many people know may make you competent, but knowing something rare that solves an expensive problem can make you highly valuable. This is why specialized expertise matters. If you become excellent at solving a difficult problem, your value is no longer measured only by the number of hours you work. It is measured by the outcome you can create. A person who can solve a serious problem in 1 hour may be worth more than someone who spends 10 hours doing routine work. That isn't unfair. It reflects the difference in leverage and value. Capital is another powerful form of leverage. Money can be invested into businesses, assets, tools, or opportunities that potentially produce returns without requiring every dollar of income to come directly from additional hours of labor. Ownership creates another layer. When you own something that produces value, you are no longer simply trading time for money. You are building an asset, a system, a business, a product, an audience, a process, an intellectual property portfolio. The specific vehicle can change, but the principle remains the same. Build something that can continue working after the initial effort is finished. Then there is leverage through people. A strong team can accomplish what one person cannot accomplish alone. But this doesn't mean using people or treating them as tools. It means learning how to coordinate talent, delegate effectively, communicate clearly, and create systems where everyone's strengths contribute to a larger outcome. Leadership becomes leverage when one person's judgment can improve the performance of an entire group. This is why powerful thinking is often less about doing everything yourself and more about knowing what must be done by you and what can be multiplied through systems, technology, capital, or collaboration. The goal is not to avoid work. The goal is to stop rebuilding the same result from zero every day. Build once. Improve continuously. Scale intelligently. Create systems that save time. Create knowledge that increases your value. Create assets that can produce beyond your direct labor. That is how effort begins to compound. And when you learn to multiply your effort instead of simply adding more hours to it, you stop competing on exhaustion and begin competing on leverage. There is another trap that keeps hardworking people stuck for years, believing that effort alone makes you valuable. It doesn't. Hard work is common. Waking up early is common. Staying late is common. Being tired is common. Sacrifice is common. What is not common is becoming genuinely difficult to replace. That is where your strategy must change. Instead of competing with everyone by working longer, begin competing by becoming rarer. Think about two people who spend the same amount of time developing themselves. One learns basic skills that thousands of others already possess. The other becomes deeply skilled at solving a specific, difficult problem. Both may work just as hard, but one becomes replaceable. The other becomes valuable. This is the psychology of scarcity. When a skill is easy to find, people have many alternatives. When a skill is difficult to find and produces important results, alternatives become fewer. That changes your position. You don't need to be the best person in the world. You need to become significantly better at something that matters. That means choosing your learning carefully. Don't spend years collecting random information simply because it feels productive. Identify problems people actually have. Identify skills that businesses, customers, or organizations genuinely need. Then build your ability to solve those problems. Communication is valuable. Sales are valuable. Negotiation is valuable. Leadership is valuable. Technical expertise is valuable. Creative problem solving is valuable. Data analysis is valuable. Strategic thinking is valuable. The specific field can change, but the principle remains the same. Become excellent at something that creates measurable value. This requires patience because rare skills take time to develop. At the beginning, you may feel ordinary. You may struggle. You may look slow compared with people who have already been doing it for years. That is normal. Every valuable skill begins with incompetence. The mistake is quitting during the period when nobody can yet see what you're becoming. Most people want immediate evidence. They learn for a few weeks and ask why nobody is paying them more. They start a business and expect instant results. They practice a skill and want recognition immediately. But scarcity takes time. You become rare through repetition. You become trusted through consistency. You become highly paid through a combination of skill, results, reputation, and demand. That is why you should stop obsessing over how hard you're working and start measuring how much more capable you are becoming. Ask yourself, what can I do today that I couldn't do a year ago? What problems can I solve now? What decisions can I make now? What results can I create now? Those questions reveal whether your effort is actually increasing your leverage. There is also a psychological advantage to becoming rare: confidence. When you know you possess something difficult to replace, you stop feeling desperate for every opportunity. You don't have to accept every offer. You can negotiate more carefully. You can choose better environments. You can walk away from situations that undervalue you. Scarcity doesn't make you arrogant. It gives you options. And options create freedom. But becoming rare requires another sacrifice. You must be willing to go deeper than other people. Most people stop when they become competent. You should keep going until you understand the principles underneath the skill. Don't just learn how to use a tool. Learn why it works. Don't just memorize information. Learn how to apply it. Don't just complete tasks. Learn how to improve the process. Debt creates differentiation. And differentiation creates value. This is also why you should protect your attention. You cannot become exceptional while constantly dividing your focus between 100 distractions. Choose an area, study it, practice it, experiment, make mistakes, get feedback, improve, repeat. Over time, something changes. You move from being another person willing to work hard to becoming one of the few people capable of producing a result others struggle to create. That is when effort begins to pay differently. Because now your work is no longer competing only on quantity. It is competing on rarity. And once you become rare, the next question becomes even more important. Are you going to keep selling all of that value by the hour? Or are you finally going to build something you can own? Once you become rare and valuable, another uncomfortable truth appears. Even a highly skilled person can remain financially limited if they continue selling every unit of value only through their time. You can become excellent at what you do and still find yourself trapped in the same cycle of working, earning, spending, and starting over. That is why ownership matters. There is a major difference between earning income and building wealth. Income can pay your bills. Ownership can build your future. When you work for a salary, freelance fee, or hourly payment, you are usually being compensated for what you do during a specific period of time. Stop working, and the income often stops as well. Ownership introduces another possibility. You create something that can continue producing value even when you are not personally performing every task connected to it. That could be a business, a digital product, a piece of intellectual property, a system, a brand, an audience, an investment, a process that can be repeated. The exact vehicle depends on your skills, circumstances, and resources, but the principle is the same. Stop thinking only about what you can earn today and start thinking about what you can own tomorrow. This distinction changes the way you approach work. Instead of asking, "How much will I be paid for this hour?" you begin asking, "Can this effort create something that continues generating value after this hour is over?" That question forces you to think differently. Imagine spending 6 months improving a skill and then using that skill to create a product that can be sold repeatedly. The initial work may be intense, but the resulting asset is no longer tied completely to the number of hours you personally work. Or imagine building a system that allows a business to operate more efficiently. Once the system works, it can continue producing benefits long after the original effort has been completed. That is leverage through ownership, but ownership requires patience because assets rarely appear instantly. At first, you may be working harder than you did before. You may be building after work, you may be learning at night, you may be reinvesting income instead of spending it immediately. You may have months where the effort seems to produce very little visible reward. This is where many people quit. They want ownership without the building phase. They want passive results without active creation. But every durable asset usually begins with concentrated effort. The difference is where that effort goes. If you spend all your energy completing tasks for someone else, you may earn more this month. If you invest some of your energy into building something you own, you may create a much stronger position over several years. This requires a long-term mindset. You have to become comfortable trading some immediate comfort for future control. That doesn't mean abandoning your job or taking reckless financial risks. It means learning to think like an owner even before you become one. Look at your current work. What processes could be improved? What knowledge could become a product? What skill could become a service? What audience could you build? What relationships could become opportunities? What part of your work creates repeatable value? These questions reveal potential assets hidden inside ordinary effort. And ownership isn't only financial. Owning your reputation matters. Owning your skills matters. Owning your decisions matters. Owning your time matters. The more control you have over the things that create your future, the less dependent you become on someone else's permission. This is why powerful people often prioritize assets over appearances. A new status symbol may create attention for a moment. An asset can create options for years. Ops are powerful because they reduce desperation. When you have no alternatives, you accept whatever terms are offered. When you have valuable skills, useful relationships, savings, systems, or owned assets, you have choices. And choices change your negotiating position. You become less afraid of losing one opportunity because you know you can create another. You become less dependent on one income source because you've begun building alternative. You stop asking only, how do I work harder? You start asking, how do I make my work continue working after I'm finished? That is the shift from labor to ownership. And once you understand ownership, the next step is to stop measuring your life by hours worked and start measuring it by the outcomes, value, and leverage your effort creates. There is another trap that keeps hardworking people financially stuck, measuring their value by the number of hours they spend working. Hours feel concrete. They are easy to count. You worked 8 hours, so you feel productive. You worked 12, so you feel even more productive. But the marketplace does not necessarily reward the amount of time you suffered. It rewards outcomes. This is a difficult idea to accept because effort feels emotionally important. When you are exhausted, you feel that you must have accomplished something significant. But exhaustion is only evidence that you spent energy. It doesn't tell you whether that energy created something valuable. Imagine 2 people working for 1 hour. One spends the hour organizing files that could have been automated. The other spends the hour solving a problem that saves a company thousands of dollars. Both worked for 60 minutes, but their outcomes are completely different. This is why you must stop asking, how many hours did I work? And start asking, what changed because I worked? That question forces you to think differently. What problem did you solve? What result did you create? How important was that result? How difficult would it have been for someone else to create it? How many people benefited from it? Can the process be improved? Can the result be repeated? Can the same effort produce a larger outcome next time? These are the questions that move you from labor toward leverage. Think about a person who spends years becoming faster at repetitive tasks. They may become extremely efficient, but if the task itself has little economic value, their efficiency has a ceiling. Now think about someone who spends those same years learning how to solve high-value problems. Their efficiency matters, but so does the problem they're solving. This is why strategic thinking matters. You don't want to become the fastest person at doing something nobody values. You want to become excellent at something that creates meaningful results. This also changes how you use your time. Instead of filling your calendar simply to feel productive, begin identifying your highest value activities. What work actually moves your goals forward? What work produces revenue? What work builds relationships? What work develops valuable skills? What work creates assets? What work can be delegated, automated, simplified, or removed entirely? You may discover that some of the things keeping you busiest are not actually the things making you stronger or wealthier. That realization can be uncomfortable, because sometimes the problem isn't that you aren't working hard enough. The problem is that you're spending too much of your effort on low-value activity. Busy people often become proud of being busy because it gives them a feeling of importance. But constant activity can become a form of avoidance. You answer every message. You attend every meeting. You organize everything perfectly. You consume endless information. You stay occupied from morning until night. Yet the important work remains untouched. This is why powerful thinking requires ruthless prioritization, not ruthless toward people, ruthless toward waste. Protect your attention. Protect your best hours. Protect the mental energy required for difficult decisions. Put your strongest effort where the potential return is greatest. And understand that outcomes are not always immediate. Sometimes the highest value activity is learning. Sometimes it is building a relationship. Sometimes it is creating a system. Sometimes it is researching an opportunity. Sometimes it is making a decision to stop doing something that has consumed too much of your time. The outcome may not appear today, but the direction changes today. This is also why patience matters. You may spend months building something before seeing results. That doesn't mean the work has no value. It means you're investing in a result that compounds later. The key is knowing whether your effort is moving towards something that can grow. If every week ends exactly where the previous week began, you should examine the structure of your work. If your income rises only when your hours rise, there is a limit. If your income can rise because your skills, systems, ownership, or distribution improve, your possibilities become much larger. The goal is not to become lazy, it is to become intentional. Work hard where hard work matters. Think deeply where thinking matters. Build systems where repetition exists. Develop skills where scarcity exists. Create assets where ownership is possible. And measure yourself by the value you create, not simply by how exhausted you feel at the end of the day. Because once you stop selling effort as your only product and start focusing on outcomes, the final lesson becomes unavoidable. Wealth and power are built by thinking years ahead and allowing intelligent decisions to compound. The final shift is learning to stop measuring success by how hard you can work today and start measuring it by what your decisions can produce years from now. That is where strategy, patience, and compounding become more powerful than exhaustion. Most people think about money in short cycles. This week, this month, this paycheck, this bill. They ask, how can I make more right now? A more powerful question is, what can I build today that becomes more valuable over time? That question changes your relationship with effort. You begin thinking in years instead of days. You stop chasing every opportunity simply because it offers immediate money. You become willing to reject short-term rewards when they distract you from something with greater long-term potential. That requires patience. And patience is difficult because modern life constantly tells you that everything should happen immediately. You post something and expect instant attention. You start a business and expect instant revenue. You learn a skill and expect immediate recognition. You invest effort and expect immediate results. But meaningful things often take time to compound. A skill becomes more valuable as you improve it. A reputation becomes stronger as you repeatedly deliver. A business system becomes more efficient as you refine it. An audience becomes more valuable as trust develops. Capital can grow when it is reinvested wisely. Relationships can become more useful as trust deepens. Knowledge becomes more powerful when different pieces begin connecting. This is compounding. One decision may seem insignificant. A second decision builds on the first, then another, then another. Eventually, the results look extraordinary, even though each individual step looked ordinary. This is why you should stop underestimating small, intelligent actions. Saving a portion of your income may not transform your life this month. Learning a valuable skill for 1 hour may not change your income tomorrow. Building a system may not create immediate freedom. But repeated for years, these decisions can completely change your position. The opposite is also true. Small bad decisions compound, constantly spending everything, ignoring your health, avoiding difficult skills, chasing short-term pleasure, staying around people who drain your focus, changing direction every week. These behaviors may not destroy your future in one day. They weaken it gradually. That is why strategy matters. You need to think about the direction your habits are taking you. Ask yourself, if I repeat my current behavior for 5 years, where will it lead? That question can be uncomfortable, but it is incredibly useful. If the answer is a life you don't want, change the behavior now. You don't need a dramatic transformation overnight. Change the direction. Then remain consistent. This is how powerful people protect their energy too. They don't spend every hour trying to maximize immediate productivity. They protect the activities that create long-term leverage. They learn, they build, they invest, they improve systems, they develop relationships, they make decisions that increase their future options, and they understand that every resource can be multiplied when managed correctly. Money can become capital. Knowledge can become expertise. Expertise can become a product or service. A product can become a system. A system can become an asset. An audience can become distribution. Distribution can create opportunities. Opportunities can create ownership. The process is connected. That is why the goal isn't simply to earn more money. It is to become more capable of creating and controlling value. This also changes how you think about power. Power isn't just having money. It is having options. If one source of income disappears, can you create another? If one opportunity closes, can you find another? If your current skill becomes outdated, can you learn a new one? If circumstances change, can you adapt? The person with options has more freedom than the person with a large income, but no alternatives. And that's why strategic patience is so important. Don't sacrifice your future simply because something feels rewarding today. Sometimes saying no today protects your freedom tomorrow. Sometimes working on an asset instead of chasing another quick payment is the smarter decision. Sometimes learning instead of consuming is the better investment. Sometimes waiting is more powerful than rushing. The goal is not to become obsessed with money or power. It is to stop wasting your effort. Work hard, but work intelligently. Build, you leverage, become rare, create ownership, focus on outcomes. Then allow time to multiply what you've built. Because the people who win long term are rarely the ones who simply worked the hardest every day. They are the ones who learned how to make yesterday's effort keep producing tomorrow's results.